This podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Jason Truppi. Jason is the co-founder at ForceMetrics. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Jason, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us a little bit of an overview of your background in technology, from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the co-founder at ForceMetrics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm formerly trained computer scientist. When I went through computer science education, I really wanted to be someone in information security. I didn't actually want to be a developer. Funny enough, I now am. But started out really focusing on cybersecurity, and really my love and passion for securing computers and securing people in that space was a really big driver for me. So did that, became a network engineer once I graduated, and then I was recruited into the FBI. So I became an FBI cyber agent in New York City. I started one of the first cyber national security squads in the bureau at the time. And what's really interesting about that is at the time, the FBI was looking at foreign nation states using military resources to hack into private and public infrastructure in the United States. So I got to learn a lot about cybersecurity, got to work with lots of data and lots of big companies like the banking institutions, clear defense contractors, and Department of Defense. From there, worked in the government for several years, and then I had a really big draw into Silicon Valley to take my learnings as an investigator, as a cybersecurity specialist, and really bring that to scale. And so I left the government, landed in Silicon Valley, and started building enterprise software products. Did that for several years. Was very successful. I got to see the world of startups. I started at a company around 100 people, and we grew to about 500. And really, I got the bug. I got the entrepreneurial bug. And so, started a couple other companies, went in fintech, insurtech, some other cybersecurity. And then right around COVID time, my FBI partner in New York City, Andre McGregor, who's the CEO, asked me about some problems that he's been uncovering around public safety. And really what it came down to was we were, during COVID, as many other people were kind of watching from their TV, the clashes between communities and law enforcement was really difficult to watch as a former law enforcement officer, but also as a citizen. And so we started asking the question, is there a better way? Can we come up with a way to solve some of these problems, these what we called unnecessary interactions between the public and public safety? And so we started talking to police chiefs, and really we asked them, what do you like, what do you not like about your technology and your agencies? And they all told us, we like our equipment, our drones, our tasers, our ballistic vests, the fun, stuff like that. And then we asked them, what do you not like? And almost emphatically, they all said, we don't like our software. We don't like our systems of record. They record data, they take in a lot of data. And so, but they don't provide any business value back. And so that was the premise of where we started ForceMetrics.
Love it. Thank you so much for that background. Super interesting and a fascinating journey from where you started in law enforcement to now being a co-founder of a tech startup. Jumping straight into what you've built at ForceMetrics, obviously you've given us a little bit of insight into defining what the problem is and the space that you're trying to solve. So part two of that, tell us all about ForceMetrics, who you are, what you do, mission of the business in its current form today.
So we're a decision assistance platform that allows for public safety first responders to make better, more informed decisions in the moment. So in real time, when they're talking to someone in the street, when they're about to do a car stop, or they're about to walk into a location. We're able to take massive amounts of siloed, disparate legacy databases, things like 911 calls, officer reports, jail records, court records, combining all that and synthesizing it into an easy to use platform. it's really crazy to think about, for the last 30 years, we've been collecting a lot of this data. And the way that I kind of describe it to people is, you look at a place like Walmart that can tell you, whether a bag of Doritos or about a bag of Ruffles sells better on any corner of their 6,000 stores globally. That's called business intelligence. Yet public safety can't do that with their data because they're locked away through various compliance issues. It's very highly sensitive data. And a lot of the systems are aging. They were built in the late 90s, early 2000s, and still being sold today. So we had a really interesting challenge to combine those data sets, but also making it accessible to every user in a department. So I think, the difference between, I guess, us and maybe some other, deeply analytical tools that you probably see or have other folks on this podcast talk about, we really are for every user. We want an officer that's fresh on the job, be able to look at historically at a person, place, or thing that's in their data and get immediate context so they can make a decision.
It makes a lot of sense, and it really falls into the category of digital transformation in the historic sense. But there are some unique challenges that you face just given the complexity of the various data sets, the sources, the age in some cases of the data sets, and then bringing it all together centrally. Can you talk to us about the early stages of the journey from concept to building it, and maybe package that all together with a good example of what it used to be like pre-ForceMetrics for a particular user to what it is now? Just some examples that you feel like can best demonstrate the improved experience for the first responders.
The reality is, in every city in the United States, and potentially even globally, officers are going blind into every call for service. So every 911 call they go into, whether or not they have the data or not, generally speaking, they're showing up to your front door or walking up to a vehicle with no prior knowledge of the person, place, or thing that they're interfacing with. But the sad part is the data exists. The data has existed for over 30 years. Nothing has really changed much in law enforcement, just volume and geographic kind of issues. And so, the challenge was, how do we actually extract that business value out of these data sets that, again, have really, really rigorous compliance requirements to store and process the data. For example, all my engineers are background checked, fingerprinted in all the jurisdictions that we interface so they can see the data just like a law enforcement officer would. So that's a challenge. We had a challenge of putting that data into the cloud. It has to be in US based infrastructure. It has to be in a US based footprint with US based authorized users accessing the physical data centers. So those challenges were a lot of the reasons why ForceMetrics didn't exist 5 years ago. Now things have changed. Compliance is still getting is pretty much the same, but in terms of usage of the cloud has been increasing in government and especially in law enforcement. And so we were able to kind of take that opportunity and start pulling that data into a centralized location securely and then process that data. And that's where it gets really interesting. I recognize that this podcast is a lot about AI, but really our team, we're excellent data engineers. And really the core elements of our team came from cybersecurity, where you're collecting lots and lots of disparate data from systems, so computer to computer communications, which has really low to no context unless you're specialized in that area. Whereas public safety, we're doing less volume. It's actually, less scale than you would have on the cybersecurity side, but it's highly contextual information. So we have a different challenge once we've been able to process the data, is how do we then contextualize it for an individual user who's about to walk in that door to know that, hey, JP has a mental health issue, or is a victim of domestic violence, or is a student and has issues at school. So that's been the challenge, from what exists now to having ForceMetrics.
Jason, when you're speaking to various, whether it be police departments or anyone involved in public safety and security, what examples do you give them, or what do you showcase that demonstrates the practical use of ForceMetrics today, so that they can really understand the impact it can have for their staff and subsequently for the everyday public?
The first thing I usually always tell anybody who doesn't really know how AI has been used in public safety is we talk about audio to text transcription. Audio to text transcription has been used not only in industry for almost 20 years, but it was specifically used in law enforcement. Back in the day, even at the FBI, if I wanted to dictate a report, I would call in a phone number and I would talk into a phone, and then it would spit out a report and send it to me via email. Well, a lot of times there was someone actually typing that up in the background, but then it evolved to machine learning that was actually doing the transcription. So that's been around, but a lot of people don't know that that's the underlying technology. So I kind of start with that. And then I talk about the evolution of that from, audio to text. We talk about image recognition. In a lot of child exploitation cases, they use image recognition, so you don't have an officer looking at the images, but you can still detect that images exist. So that was kind of the next evolution of using machine learning and AI in public safety. And then we've now evolved to, there are more kind of controversial subjects like facial recognition. But then now, again, going back to the staff shortages across the country, now we're looking for efficiency gains. And so a lot of the conversation that I have is text summarization. Can you read a bunch of reports as a first line or second line supervisor instead of having to read every single detail? You just need a higher summarization so you can then report up to your command staff or make a decision based on, a summarized version of the information. So there's kind of that conversation. And then the final note that I'll make is really around the practical use of AI and the responsible use of AI. We have to talk a little bit about the news articles that are talking about generative AI, and I have to really separate the generative versus non-generative so our users and our buyers understand that.
Looking at what's possible, what are you excited about? What are you looking forward to see with the evolution of ForceMetrics and its services?
I'm really excited about where public safety is going with AI in general. Why I say that is because, AI, we were doing machine learning since the inception of this company. This is pre the craze of LLMs. So we were doing things like named entity recognition, entity extraction. We were doing topic modeling, text summarization, all with non-generative models. Now with the world of LLMs, it's opened and unlocked a lot of other possibilities in this space, but we have to be very cautious. Generative versus non-generative is a very sticky subject in the world of public safety, right? You can't summarize a report, in the wrong way if someone's interpreting that and they make a decision based on that. So we do a lot of non-generative AI approaches as traditional, approaches that have been going on for 10 plus years in all of those various fields. But what's exciting about the non-generative AI field is that we can, with some, trained models, with some domain-specific models, be able to extract information such as sentiment and things in reports to actually highlight officer safety issues or issues, with the victims or issues with even the subjects. So that's really exciting. The other exciting thing is really agentic AI, being able to go and process various types of information and then bringing back, things that investigators are looking for to make them more efficient. And then I think the third really great possibility is, and being implemented in some cases, is really trying to build more efficient workflows. So a lot of public safety right now is going more towards a real-time intelligence, real-time crime in various forms. And, really, if you look at the public safety agencies across the country, most of them are 15 to 20% understaffed right now. Yeah. They can't get enough backfill for the people that are leaving those positions. And so what that means is we have to do more with less. And that's all about what we're doing with AI right now, is doing more with less, build those efficiencies and get those efficiency gains in an agency that produce even better, more high quality product.
Yeah, greater ROI on the efforts of the individuals. Staying on that topic then, looking at your own team, the team that you've helped build and grow and scale, for those listening who are interested in what you're talking about and want to know more, describe the current setup of the team, the environment, the culture, the backgrounds of the individuals. And part two of that is the plan for the year ahead as we have this conversation right now in early 2025, there's a lot that you and the team at ForceMetrics could be working on. So describe the current setup of the team if you could, and then talk to us about the near-term roadmap. What is the plan for project pipeline, and how is that going to impact the team?
Yeah, one of our philosophies in the company is really hire for the person first and then the role second. So we're looking for highly motivated individuals that have a really good sense of mission, that know that what they're building is having a real world effect. Our product has already saved lives, and we've only been really live selling for the last 2 years. And so we really take someone who understands that level of commitment. And then certainly you have to have the skill set, in terms of data engineering and development talent. But we have a pretty small team. We just raised a $22 million Series A round, and we are hiring, new engineers, data engineers, machine learning engineers, of those sorts. And the current team is really, really highly motivated, highly capable. A lot of them do come from a background of cybersecurity, but that we also have backgrounds, from government and military. We have folks that just love data. I literally have talked to 2 of our employees that all they do is think about data and every day, even when they get done with work. And so again, it's that kind of level of commitment that we're looking for in structuring our team.
So Jason, again, finishing on what's next for ForceMetrics. I know we touched on it a little bit around possible future use cases, but I want to really give you the floor to talk about where you see this field going over the next few years with the evolution of AI and possibilities for ForceMetrics. What do you see as being the evolution of services that can be provided, and how is AI going to help drive that forward for you and the team?
Again, I think the core driving factor of it is related to the staffing shortages that we're experiencing across the country and globally. So if you really kind of take that into account, we're looking at text summarization, automated report writing. This is a new one. There's a couple vendors in the space that are doing that, taking your body cam videos and transcribing that into a summarized report, where then an officer can finish the report. There's those type of workflows. We're going to do a lot more automation of workflows because there's been a focus in real-time intelligence, real-time crime. There's a lot of parallels from where public safety is now and where cybersecurity was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago in cybersecurity, we were collecting lots and lots of data from different disparate sources. And then we had so many alerts, we didn't know what to do with them. You didn't have the staff to actually follow all the alerts. Well, we're starting to see that in public safety. You're getting these automated workflows. You're getting a lot more technology and tooling. And so now you have to have someone, a human in the loop, to make a decision on which leads to follow. We think a lot of that can be automated, just like it had been in cybersecurity about 5-6 years ago. And so I think there's an automation workflow. There's a prioritization workflow. How do you prioritize all the leads that are there? And then there's always going to be a human in the loop in public safety. And so really it's just synthesizing that data and getting it down to what's actionable at that time. That's going to be a lot of workflow management. And there's so many different user personas. You have dispatchers, you have officers, you have command staff, you have city managers and police chiefs, you have detectives, you have analysts, all with different workflows that need to be efficiency needs to be built into those workflows.
You've kind of answered the question I always like to finish on as you and I were speaking off air, but I want to give you the platform to speak to an audience of potential future employees. I mean, ForceMetrics, in hearing you describe what you're building, the impact it can have, it already is a great mission that a lot of people can get behind, but you're still competing for top talent who have the right mix of skill set, maybe industry knowledge, and also align with the mission. When you're speaking to potential future employees and it's somebody you feel could add value to the culture and team, what is it that you tell them about ForceMetrics, its work, its environment, that gets them excited enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies also trying to hire?
Yeah, the first thing is, because this data is so sensitive and so locked away in various data centers and cities and counties across the country, this is a data set that's never really been unlocked in this way ever in the history of public safety. So if you are interested in data and you're interested in solving brand new problems with an old industry, this is the place for you. The next part of that, really is that or the first part of all that is really the mission, in addition to just having access to that data set. Now that comes also with responsibility, having access to that and building products that are having a real world effect is something that you also need to consider. But it's a really exciting space to be. Public safety is becoming one of the hotter verticals, or I guess GovTech, if you want to call it that. And so it's an exciting new vertical. There's a lot of transformation, digital transformation going on. And again, you're having a real world effect on the product that you're building.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.